order. Just want to remind everyone that this is being recorded and will be published on online. All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank everyone for being here, and just another reminder to sign in if you have not. First, we're going to start out with the consent agenda. Take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second. Any questions? Concerns? All right. But first and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right. Motion passes to approve the consent agenda. Next, we're on to public comment. This is the time for comment on public matters that are not on the main agenda. Members of the audience are encouraged to briefly address the trustees on issues that are not on the agenda. The chairman of the board will seek comments from the audience on significant items as they occur. Public matters do not include any pending legal matters, private personnel issues, or private student issues. Please do not attempt to address such issues at this time, or you will be ruled out of order. To ensure everyone has had an opportunity to speak, each speaker will be given a 2-minute time limit. Are there any public comment? No public comment? Okay. Moving on to informational items and reports. First, we have administrator's report. And Mrs. Matt is ill. She's joining us. I think, is she online?
She's there.
Okay.
I heard her.
I'm here. Are we ready?
We're ready for you.
Okay, so first of all, I want to thank everybody for coming to our meeting. I am sorry I cannot be there this evening. Just a few things to talk about with the admin board report because it was a pretty quiet month since our last board meeting. So first thing is regarding school health. We have had this flu going around and upper respiratory flu going around, and we are spreading the word that students must be fever-free without medication to return to school for 24 hours after they are ill. So that is our rule that we go by, and if students come to school and it's in less than 24 hours, we have to send them back home because there's still a chance that they're contagious. So we are working on that. The great thing is we have not had as many absences this year, and I know that I talked about that at our last board meeting, and I strongly believe it's because we have some great cleaning going on. So just want to let everybody know that we are doing better in that department. Next thing for sports, boys basketball. The boys had a great season. The 7-8 and 5-6 teams were both successful. They played well. They worked hard. I went to the tournaments. I didn't go to all games, but I went to the tournaments, and it was super great. And the amazing thing was, like, between the first game and the second game when the kids were playing, a huge difference in the challenge. The first game was always so much easier than the second game of the tournament. So great job for both coaches and for both teams. And then girls basketball practices begin right after the Christmas break. Students have to have their physical and permission slips on file by Friday, December 20th. That's this Friday. Facilities update. We are celebrating because the concrete for the breezeway was poured yesterday. So hooray! We'll be able to walk from building to building. The next thing will be to get the electricity hooked up to the portable in January, and then we'll explore the option of getting water and sewer connected in the spring because we can't really do that in the winter. That's not going to be a good thing. Events. We had Pie Bingo November 22nd. It was amazing, and the $1,700 dessert that went was really amazing. I'm like, oh my gosh, how is that possible?
I had fun with that one. Did you pay your half yet? No.
Oh my goodness. So we have some really generous donors in our community, and we are thankful for them. We had the Christmas wreath fundraiser going on recently, and pig raffle fundraiser, and I believe that we have the drawing for that at our Christmas program. So Christmas program is coming up Thursday at 2 o'clock and at 6 o'clock, and the drawing would be in the evening presentation. So that's exciting. Kids are happy. They're really excited to go. Winter break begins Monday, December 23rd, and students come back on the 6th of January. Teachers come on the 3rd of January. And the end of quarter 2 is January 17th. Time is going by so quickly. So quickly. So that is my school report.
Hey,
Then the
Don.
next,
Oh,
yes,
sorry, Don. This is Jason. I'm just curious if you could expand a little bit on the modular building. So you mentioned getting electricity. I assume, however, that we still can't have students and staff in that building until it gets electric
that
or
is
water.
correct,
And
because
No,
yeah,
it
because we
doesn't
have to
have
have
water.
electricity in order to have our alarm system up and our cameras and all of that stuff. That we have to have all that in our phones. We have to have electricity to that building.
okay.
So as soon as that electricity is hooked up, we can get people moved in within just like 2 or 3
Okay.
days.
So
after
the water
that.
and
So-
sewer doesn't have to be.
No,
Okay.
because
The
they're
water
right
and
next
sewer
to
does not
the
have to be
use of
hooked up.
the gym.
Okay. Okay. So that's good news. And I'm sorry. Did you say there's a date for the electricity, or that's pending?
So we'll be looking at that in January. So we'll have to use Montana trenchless probably for that, because you're gonna have to go under the sidewalk to connect to the corner. Originally, we thought they'd be able to connect to the corner of the gym, but without digging up the sidewalk, I think that's the only company that can do that can go underneath. So
So we can't use the corner of the gym like we were talking about?
no, they said there isn't enough power there. And Jay can talk to you about that. He's here to talk to you about that.
All the way to the other end, and then underground.
Okay. It's gonna be expensive.
Electrical guys.
We did receive the bid, but it was yesterday, so I couldn't attach it to this month's agenda. So we're going to talk about it a little later on in the agenda.
Okay.
Continue. Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you, Don.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you. Next thing I'd like to talk about is the Zones of Regulation Counseling curriculum. So my understanding is that years ago, our school used this curriculum, the Zones of Regulation, and you have a link to it. Right now, it's not costing us anything because our counselor was gifted the curriculum, and there are free online resources from the counselor in Kyla, who is her mentor teacher. So she was gifted the book, and she is using that just in grades K through 3 at this time, just as an introduction. And she doesn't want the teachers doing it because it's not to be used in any way except for encouraging positive growth. So it's not to be used in a punitive sense at all. And Mrs. Spent, she said that she couldn't be there today because she's finishing her last class. But she said that she wants to make sure that when teachers do use the curriculum that they are well trained. So she is just doing it herself, and she is working with kids in grades K through 3 to get that done. So it's all about self-regulation. And I asked her to check into a character building curriculum for grades 4 through 8. And so she is researching what curriculum is available for kids. So you can look up a little bit more, but we have used it before, and she said it's working well with the students. It's just her right now who is using the curriculum. The teachers aren't using it, so it's not a K through 3 teacher process. It's just the counselor process used in counseling.
Hey, Dawn, was this what we were talking about last board meeting?
That was the math.
Oh, that
Most
was-
likely so,
okay.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Then the next item is the map testing data. I need to share with you that Crystal Evanson prepared this report for us, and she could not be with us tonight because her mother passed away just yesterday. So we are sad for her, and the staff is behind her. They're supporting her any way that they can. So I would like to table this report to talk about it until the next board meeting.
That's fine. It's part of your report. You can do with it how you want.
Yes, so I would just like to table it because she's our system testing coordinator. So she will have a lot more insight as to the actual process and how things are going. The other thing is, in January, we typically do the winter testing. So we'll start the winter testing in January. And in order to measure true growth, you would want to look at fall scores compared to winter scores instead of year to year for the same grade level, because students are so different. So last year's kindergarten students would be way different than this year's kindergarten students. And that's like comparing apples and oranges. But when you can look at a fall score and then a winter score, it's from the same children. So that's a better measurement, I believe, of looking at growth. So I would just like to table that report until she is able to attend our board meeting, which will be in January.
So can I suggest we put that as, don't put that under your report next time, put it as an informational from
Okay,
Christine.
I will do that. So we'll move that. Okay. All right. Thank you. Next, accreditation. So we have our big accreditation part 2 process from OPI. It's due February 28th. And as a part of that process, I'm going to update a couple of things because they wouldn't let us do it until they were open the window, which was like December 6th. So they wouldn't let us make any updates from last time. So I'm going to be submitting our MAP scores to show growth. Excuse me, because I didn't have that last time to show the growth. I submitted proof that we did the testing, but I didn't submit any scores because I thought, well, is that an invasion of privacy? And what I didn't think about submitting was the district scores compared to student scores, because I didn't want to submit just student scores. That's not a good deal. So I will be submitting the district scores so that we can show growth, and I will also be submitting our updated strategic plan, because we updated that, but we couldn't submit it until the window opened, and I want to submit more things at one time, so that will be in January when I begin doing that. So I would just like to share with you some of the requirements that we are working on, and we've already got a lot of stuff done. So the first thing is for the graduate profile. We developed a graduate profile last time for the part 1 of the accreditation process. And what we have to do now is come up with a graphic to show what that looks like. So that will be the part that we submit to OPI. So that is coming up. And then next, the second part is curriculum. And so we have to show a proficiency-based learning model that was cooperatively developed. So we have that. We have curriculum teams, and I just have to get my notes together, and I have a curriculum meeting planned with our teams in January to just finalize what that looks like so we can get it submitted. And then an assessment plan, we already have that in place. So we're doing MAP testing, and then we also are in the first year of the MAST statewide assessment, and we have to show that we have a plan for the next 2 years. So next year we'll be able to use it. Last year we couldn't use it because it was a pilot, but this year is not a pilot. So we'll use this year and next year, and of course we're using the MAP growth assessment. So we're good for that. It's all good to go. And then a professional development plan, which we turned that into you last year. We talked about that, and I had a professional development meeting with our professional development team in November. We have another one planned for January to just finalize things and make sure everything looks good, and we'll get that turned in. And then mentorship and induction. So Mrs. Specht is our only new teacher this year, and she's finishing her program. She has been working with the university and with Tara from Kyla. So that's plain as day that we have evidence that she has been doing that. So that's not going to be a problem at all. And then finally, the evaluation process, and we already have that in our policy as far as our evaluation instrument for our staff. We have it for our certified and for our paraprofessionals. So we have all of that stuff together, and it's just a matter of turning it in. The thing that will take the longest amount of time is the graphic design for the graduate profile, which I would like to change the name of to learner profile, because we don't have graduates at the senior level here, but we do have learners. So I would like to change that to a learner profile, because the other districts in the valley, they're changing their middle school names and their elementary K through 5 to learner profile instead of graduate profile. So I think just to follow suit, and that's just more applicable to what we're doing. And the nice thing is too, is there are a lot of examples now out there on the internet of what does a nice graphic for a learner profile look like. And it can be very basic, and it can be elaborate. I don't want to spend a lot of money getting it done. I know of one district that spent thousands of dollars getting their graduate profile done. So I don't want us to go there. I want us to work on it. So that'll come together in January also. So I'm excited. We'll get this done, get it knocked out. Any questions on that? Okay, great. So I think that is what I have for right now.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Next, we are on to our clerk's report.
Okay. Normal reports attached as usual. Again, want to bring attention to the Fund 170 on the cash report. This is the first month that we have seen it in the red. However, you can see that it always runs in arrears, so you can see that I show that deposit on there, so it's technically in the black by about $500. So it's a much narrower margin than it has been previous months. However, I do know I just did a couple pretty big deposits in December, cash and check deposits for them as well, for PJ Club as well. So I kind of want to see how December shakes out. I kind of wondered if December would take a hit because it's shortened with the break. And I think that that's what hurt the Thanksgiving break is what hurt November as well. So I kind of want to see how December shakes out. And we're currently still running in the black. So I'm optimistic that it's just kind of a little blip on the radar because of the holiday.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions about anything or anything pop up?
No?
The only other one is I've been attaching that student attendance report, and I put a note right on there to apologize for the error, but Mrs. Marquardt was out last month, as we all know, so our numbers were
It made it look so good last
inaccurate. I know, I was so bummed when I asked her and she goes, I don't know where those numbers came from, and I was like, okay, well, that's too bad. But
So do we know why we're still
here we
trending
are.
downward?
You know, it really is a mix of things, and I did ask Mrs. Marquardt about that, and she does ask everybody to do the exit survey, but, you know, it's their choice whether or not they want to do an exit survey, but the reasons are really variant. They really are. People moving away, sometimes
And there's a lot of that.
there's a lot of that. People moving to a different district or choosing to homeschool. You know, a couple of them chose to homeschool because of ride issues. I mean, it was like the gambit of reasons. So, and if you've read any of this stuff coming from like the MTSBA, how they send out those daily dispatches, this is now statewide. Yeah.
And the only
It's-
one, I guess, as far as school to school, the only one that really, I guess, surprises me and disappoints me is the Kyla, the difference on the Kyla thing. Because
Yeah.
it used to be the other way
Even,
around.
an even split, yeah. Yeah, that one, I mean, that one's a bummer where it's only about 10 though, and in the overall scheme, that's not where the majority of our loss is. You know what I mean?
Right.
Plus, it's not even really, it would only be 5 if it was equal, right? Because then it'd be 20 and 20 essentially, so that's
Right.
only about 5 students there that would, and we're down.
Is that, I mean, I know it's hard to say because you just said, but that Kalispell one, is that a lot to do, you think, with like
I think a lot of
8th
it is
graders and the siblings are going too?
I think a lot of it is work.
Is it?
I think
Oh.
a lot of it is the parents work in town, and
Okay.
it's more convenient. I really do. I don't think it's as much what they're providing education-wise as it is the convenience factor.
Okay.
That's just my.
I would agree with Lacey. We had a family of 4 have to move because they were closer to work. So that's
Right.
4 kids, you know, I mean, that makes a big difference. And then we've had other ones move just because, well, again, it's work, the work situation. Yeah. So I would say primarily work also.
Okay.
And, you know, the travel expenses, like having to pay for gas, like, so I invited the one family of 4. I said, you're welcome to keep going to our school if you would like. But
Right.
it's just that cost of gas plus the amount of time and to move to a different town that was, you know, 20 miles away. But they were really successful in our school and they liked it. But unfortunately, they just couldn't do it.
Sure.
Yeah, 21 down from last year is really, that's a tough hit.
It's a big hit. Yeah, and it's, I mean, as we all know, because I've harped on it before, we're now in the 3rd year of the 3 years, so I think we're going to
Next
be in
year's
trouble.
gonna really
Yeah, we're gonna be in trouble when we budget this next
We
year.
have to
We're-
recruit.
Like, y'all need to start thinking about what that's gonna look
Right.
like for come budget season this spring. And I know Mrs. Matt is already thinking about it, because she's gonna have to look at it from a staffing perspective and figure out what is needed, because as students decrease, then we will have to make moves in the classroom to make more sense for the school.
Is that the lowest we've been
For a long time.
for a long time? Is
For a
it?
long, long
Yeah.
time.
But like I said, it's a statewide trend.
Mhm.
It really is. It's in all the news stories that you can find. It isn't just our
Right.
district.
When I got
And
off the board last
other
year.
districts around here were experiencing growth, but it's not consistent anymore. And they were definitely experiencing an uptick, and now that's leveled out, if not going the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it's crazy because just looking at the 2024, 2025 versus 23, 24 on the 7th and 8th, it's pretty much just a wash. 43 and 44.
yeah. we're
So
losing
it
those
isn't
grades.
really the older ones. Yeah, like you said, it's the older kids.
And what gets me, like Kyla taking that many kids, out of district kids, and they're just screaming for room and money,
Mhm.
but they're taken out of district.
Yeah.
That could change.
It
If they
could.
can't make.
If they can't pass a bond and they can't make room for those kids, they'll
They're
start
gonna have
closing
to-
that off. Yeah.
I mean, that's what we would have to do if we were in a position of, or start charging.
If we had a higher, we can't charge anymore.
Can't charge
Oh,
them.
that's
If
right.
we had a
Can't charge
higher A
anymore.
and B, and with the 300 building down, we would absolutely have to be capping our enrollment,
Right.
our out of district, but we are not in that position. We are accepting every child we can get through the door.
When a family homeschools, what happens to those tax dollars? Because they're not represented, I mean, they're obviously not in their A and B,
They're
but
not in our A and B.
Airbnb. The other monies, the other school monies, based on population, of course
yeah.
but A and B is the most important part of your numbers, and, we're, yeah, it's a good thing that there was years back before that were like 210, because that has saved us up to now. I think when I left, we were 210 or 215 when I left the first time.
We were 226 my first year here.
In fact, at that time, we grew so fast that we were able to get money from the state, extra money, because it was more than a 10%. We grew one year over 10%, and so we got money with that.
Yeah, so anyway, we'll be keeping a pretty tight watch on these numbers over the next couple months, and as
I
we-
appreciate that you put them in
Yeah,
every time.
thank you.
It does help us. It
Yeah.
helps us prepare, if nothing else, in our minds, okay, we have to start thinking
It's time to
about what
start
we have
getting
to do.
mentally prepared. Yeah, it's time to start. Time to
What
start prepping.
are you kind of looking at, Dawn? I mean, I know it's kind of early a little bit, but with that being said, and I know we're gonna move on to the next one with Mrs. Harris and you combine classes, but I mean, are we looking at more cuts for 2025 school year?
I would have to look, it's going to depend a lot on what our kindergarten enrollment is going to be for when we do the kindergarten roundup.
Okay,
So I won't have an answer until we get that roundup number done.
Right.
And we can always move that roundup earlier. We don't have to wait till April. We can always move it earlier.
okay.
So,
Okay.
that's the next thing on the agenda. What have you done for the Mrs. Harris deal?
So,
Yeah.
Ms. Harris, first of all, I would like to thank her for her service. She was with Smith Valley School for 17 years. She submitted her resignation on December 9th, and I accepted that on behalf of the board. So what is happening right now is her students are now with Miss Martin's class, because she had, I think, 8 in her class, and I think Miss Martin had 10 in her class. So at the beginning of the year, those classes were both bigger, and students have moved away, and once again, it seems to be work related. So those kiddos are there, and then I'm going to give Mr. Moon back his music room, at least temporarily, until we figure out down the road what's going to happen, because currently he's having music in all the classrooms, and it would be great for him to have music in the music room again. So, because that's what they deserve. That's what the kids deserve.
Well, if she's only got 17 kids, or 18 kids,
18.
there's really no reason to, it's just savings for this year. And depending on kindergarten roundup, maybe continuation, that's savings.
So yeah, we'll just have to see how it goes. I think that currently, kindergarten has, I think they've got 26 kids right now for kindergarten that we have currently, I believe is the correct number.
For
And
next,
the cap-
for
the
next
cap
year?
Currently in kindergarten.
Oh.
So the cap for a classroom for K through 2 is 20 students. And beyond 20, you have to have a paraprofessional for 1.5 hours per day per child.
Per child over.
Per child over, that's correct. Yeah, so we'll have to see what those numbers look like. Kids are coming and going, like some kids that have left the district are coming back to the district. It's just hard to know. Sometimes students leave and then it's not all that the parents thought it would be, and then they come back, and we really can't tell right now.
So when you have, I mean, I know, like you just said, though, we gotta wait until kindergarten roundup, but hypothetically, if we have the same amount going into 2025, is half day an option for kindergarten or no?
Half day is an option if parents request. So
What-
and we let that be known. The parents can request a half a day option.
And what if that was the way we had it though? Would that, I mean, does that ruffle feathers, or, because you still have two classes, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, correct?
Yeah, yes, you would. So
Okay.
we have to look at those numbers and see what that looks like.
Okay.
And then a lot of it too is going to depend. Like some parents may have to have their kids go all day.
Right.
Some might be fine with half day. So
Okay.
I let both of our kindergarten teachers know, because it is the law now that we offer that they can go all day or part day. So we have to offer that.
What's kind of been the response on that in the past? I mean, how many parents have requested it?
So I haven't had any parents request it since I've been here.
Okay.
Nobody wants to have to go get their kids done.
Well, yeah, no, I just didn't know, because I mean, you got 26 kids, I mean,
We'll just send them over to Rick's.
that's, yeah.
So it would take some creative planning. We'd have to see how that would all work out. Maybe some creative scheduling.
Well, maybe what we end up looking at is short classes and combined classes,
I was gonna say combo classes, kindergarten, first grade or something.
which is that's what Shelley was, right?
No, she was
a first grade teacher.
First grade, which is-
We didn't have any
They used
combos.
to have
We didn't
first
have any
and second
combos
grade
this year?
combined.
So,
Kids
but
in
it's something
last
to
year
go
was able
back
to
to,
separate
yeah.
that into first grade and
Okay.
second grade, and it worked out so much better for the kids. Their achievement scores went up substantially, because frequently what happens is the upper grades don't grow as much as they should when you have a combined. The younger grades will benefit from it a lot more than the older grades will. So like if you have a 1-2 class, the first grade class will grow a lot more than the second grade class will, because they have, the second graders to be the example. So that's frequently what happens in a combined class, and I am not in favor of combined classes, and I would try to work around that.
Okay.
But we'll see what we can do. We'll look at the numbers and we'll see what we can do.
One
Creativity.
Right.
thing just for everybody to kind of keep in their head is there's nothing on this agenda about riffing this certified FTE position right now, just so that everybody kind of has that in their head. But just, again, food for thought going into fiscal year 26. But just so you know, this position isn't being riffed. It's not
It's just not being
eliminated.
filled, right?
It's
just
just
not being
currently
filled,
not
right.
being filled because
That is
Mrs. Mack found an internal solution that's more immediate for the student's benefit. Okay, but I just kind of want to point that out because it's an important piece of information.
All right, yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Matt.
Yeah, thank you, Don.
You're welcome. Any other questions? No? Okay.
You were
No.
good. All right, next we are moving on to our action agenda. Following items are for consideration and possible action. First, personnel. Any offer of employment is contingent upon receipt of satisfactory criminal history background check and satisfactory drug and alcohol screening results, and for some positions, receipt of satisfactory pre-employment screening. First item here, superintendent evaluation contract review for consideration for renewal for an additional term of 1 year. Should I read this whole thing? Possible executive session pending a determination of the chair pursuant to criteria in section 2033 and district policy 1400. I can't make a motion.
I move we table this
I have
until Ms. Matt can be here.
one motion.
I second that.
All right. Any further discussion?
Thank you, I would like to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Understandable. Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes to table this item. Next, we have hire Kay Nelson as fiscal year 25 7th and 8th girls basketball coach.
I'll make a motion to hire Kay Nelson, fiscal year 25, 7-8 girls basketball coach.
I'll second that.
First and a second, any discussion?
How are you gonna be able to,
It's gonna kind of mirror last year.
Okay.
There's a couple games and there's like a handful of practices. Coach Davis did offer to fill in like he did last year on those
Okay.
days.
so we got it covered?
So, yeah,
Okay.
it's covered. And then Pat Connors is always really good about helping if we happen to
Sure.
do that too. So,
Okay, cool.
We're gonna do a new background check on you though.
do it. Fine.
Dare you.
All right, first, second, no further comments, questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next, Kay Nelson, fiscal year 25 7th and 8th grade girls basketball coaching contract.
Move to approve the contract.
I'll second that.
First and second, any questions, comments, discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next, we have hire P. Connors as fiscal year 25 5th and 6th girls basketball coach.
Make a motion to hire P. Connors as fiscal year 25, 5 and 6 girls basketball coach.
I'll second that.
First and second, any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next, we have P. Connors, fiscal year 25, 5th and 6th girls basketball coaching contract.
Move to approve the contract.
I'll second that.
First and second, any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next item is 300 building discussion.
What happened? Did you guys have a meeting?
Yeah. We did a couple weeks ago, yeah.
You wanna- Just curious what you guys found out.
Well, basically, it still comes down to, we don't know legally what we need to do or what we can do as far as breaking the project down into small pieces and kind of self-managing it, or if it really does need to go out to bid because it exceeds an $80,000 threshold.
It's kind of the legalities of that 80,000 mark is kind of where the can you break it up? Well, you can't break it up is the biggest legal part of it. So trying to figure out, well, are we cannot. If it's a project over $80,000, it has to go to bid. So the legalities is, hey, let's tackle the electrical. Okay, it's gonna be less than $80,000. Let's do it. Can we do that? Or is that, hey, no, this is one project, you gotta do it all, send all the bid. And so that's kind of where we're trying to figure that out right now.
It can be kind of complex with where we were with McKinstry, so we've kind of been talking with MTSBA. If there's anything there that we need to be considering or looking at that we're not aware of, I tried calling them, so we've just been in email communication back and forth to try to
Love that.
clear that up. So that's one part. In our meeting, or our committee meeting, we just kind of talked about all of our possible options moving forward. MTSBA kind of came back with some things we kind of already knew as far as bidding processes, whether you go with the general contractor like we did already with McKinstry, or there's some other possibilities of having like a project manager and then kind of collecting those things with a sealed bid.
Yeah,
Is the
that's what
pro-
I was talking about.
Is the process.
Yeah.
So we're still kind of talking with them, saying what is the actual procedure? Like, how do we walk that out? How can we do that
Well, and the nice thing,
appropriately and
there's-
legally?
There's really no hurry right now. I mean, as far as we know, everything is, the building's in good shape.
Yeah.
It's not leaking. You're keeping
so
an eye on that.
There was one other thought or question I had with that, but anyway. So that's kind of where that's at right
Well, it's a
now.
slow process trying to find out anything about historic reference, so working on it.
Yeah. We talked through even some of that, like how that plays out with this, getting it under this historical society and what that might actually tie and bind us to.
Right.
Down
and
the
we have-
road.
That's why I want to be careful how we,
Correct. So.
I don't want to go asking, I'm trying to find out without actually saying, hey, this is what we're doing. Because there are ways, I mean, if we can fix it without having to go historical and still make, you know, not have to tear the whole thing apart like they wanted us to, that's, I think, the better option.
Mhm.
Because then our hands aren't tied. And we can set our own historical, you know, school history thing.
So we're really waiting for guidance on MTSB on how to actually move forward with gathering bids internally, kind of have somebody project managing and what that would look like. They said engineers, who else? Engineers and,
I have it right here.
oh, I do too, actually.
Nah, you even printed it. You're even ahead of me.
Engineers and architects are exempt from, they have some flexibility in the law with the bidding requirements. So, just talking about consulting with contractors and what that might bind contractors to from not being able to utilize their services further on down the process. So we're just really trying to be cautious with that, so we don't get ourselves in
Yeah.
trouble down the road. So we're really waiting on them for kind of more practical guidance on.
Right. And I really don't see, even if we do figure this out, it's nothing, I don't think we do anything until next summer when the kids aren't around to have to.
For sure, there's a lot of preliminary stuff that we can be
Right.
doing,
We can-
collecting
yeah, we can
information
collect it.
and
Work on finding.
office work,
Yeah.
yeah.
We're gonna have to stay on top of it to be ready by June.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So that's where that's
It's not
at.
that far away for a project of this size.
No. Yeah, ducks in a row is pretty much what we're going for right now.
I mean, the biggest issue is that we're gonna end up having to hire somebody to manage the project one way or another.
Mhm.
So whether it be, you said, the architect or the engineer would be exempt from, that's that whole how you get around the bidding process thing. You still have to go to bid on every piece of the process, but they're the ones that can give you what you're going to bid for. Because we were talking about how do we even figure out what we're going to bid for without help, and that's where that engineer or the architect comes into play, is they can tell you what you can go to bid for. But then if you choose to go to bid route, it is sealed bids, and you just put it out in the paper, and then you collect the sealed bids and you open them and accept the bid, and that's that. So,
The cheapest one that most closely matches your requirements.
correct.
We did get some information, but like I said, we're waiting to hear how we can practically walk this out, but contractors can volunteer services, but it just gets a little murky also. So that's kind of one piece of information I thought was good to know.
Individuals can't, but contractors can.
Correct, licensed contractors.
Individuals can't volunteer, so we
Nope.
can't have a work day and go in and put all of the drywall up and.
Correct.
could if it's working under someone's license.
Nobody's gonna have you work under their
Nobody's gonna let
license.
that happen because.
That's
it's-
taking on a giant liability risk.
Yeah, it's all
true.
the,
Yeah.
I wouldn't wanna ask somebody to do that.
you know. So that's where that's at.
Thanks for gathering that
Yeah.
and for getting that ball rolling.
You bet. No further action with 300 building discussion. Any other questions?
No.
Okay. And next we're moving on to subscribe to, someone help me with this, Quaglia Institute Climate Surveys.
So it's the Qualia Institute Climate Surveys, and they are very in-depth. So this is actually a part of the accreditation, and I'm sorry, but I had the page face down and I didn't see it. It was the last page, I had it turned over. So this is another part of our accreditation requirement, is to be able to measure school climate. And so what this does, what I would recommend is that, because we did the certified needs assessment, we did that last year in January, and we sent it out, and that was more of a out to the public analysis of what did they see were the needs, and this is more specific to parents and students and then teachers. And so you don't have to do this every year, but we could do it like every time that we are up for accreditation reviews. So every 3 years is what it would come down to. I have seen these surveys before. I've participated in them and completed them, and they are very in-depth, and they can be done as a part of parent-teacher conferences. They can also be posted online. They are really excellent for us to gauge where we are, what parents believe. One example is you would be asked a question about when you were in school, how does that compare to what kids are doing now? So it kind of gives you that feel for what are parents thinking, what's the community thinking, what are teachers thinking about the way things are going in our society and within our schools. So I would recommend that we do it this year, that we do number 2, 3, and 4. Which is total $1,184, and that would be, we can get that done in February when we have our parent-teacher conferences, and the results can be submitted along with the comprehensive needs assessment that we already had. And there's also one other climate survey that we can send out to the general public, because they're looking for more than one tool, more than one way of measuring things. So I would recommend that we go for it, and we don't need to do number 1 at this time, but I think that would be a good thing to do in the future, perhaps when we have our next accreditation round, because that's meant to be done closer to fall parent conferences.
So when would the parents do them, when they come in for
So-
84?
So our conferences are for February, I think are the 7th, I'd have to look up that date exactly. I think they're the 7th of February, but they can do them anytime before that. We can post them on the website, and we can give some incentives like extra credit for, not extra credit, but like an extra time for doing something fun or whatever. For every class that gets 80% response or something like that. So we can make it fun. We can make it a little contest within the classroom for kids to get their parents to complete the survey, and they also would complete the survey if they're in grades 3 through 8. So these surveys, and then teachers, of course, you want to know what your teachers are thinking. So I think that's a great idea.
So Dawn, beyond the accreditation, I guess let me bring it back because I missed it. What are we gonna do with this information? We, the school?
So we as a school will use this as a baseline, and then the next time that we do this survey, we're going to look at growth. So we're going to look for positive responses, like if you notice that something has been a trend towards being a negative impression of whoever's taking the survey, we're going to look to see, are we able to turn that around? And this is something that you can do endlessly every time that you have come across accreditation renewal. So, and I think honestly, I mean, when I was in St. Ignatius, we used to do this every year as a part of our MBI initiative. So we did the survey every year, and it was really effective, and we just grew. We had great discipline, great behavioral initiatives and responses, and just a lot of positive things. And this helps us have that baseline so that we can use it and we can move on, we can grow from it. Helps us to identify, what are the issues that we have. you don't know, you can't do anything. You have to know what they are.
Right.
So that would be $1,100 every time we do this?
So $11.84 for this year. I don't know what it's going to be like 3 years down the road.
So, okay.
I wouldn't suggest that we do it every year. I think you
Right.
need time for growth.
Okay.
And this is required for accreditation as well, or some form of this?
So they want more than one tool. So one of the requirement is review evidence of tools with an S, tools submitted for assurance rubrics from part 1, and then they have this list. So and it says you can use the same tool as the CNA if it addresses school climate. Well, our CNA, our comprehensive needs assessment, addressed partially school climate, but not, I don't believe it was thorough enough to address all of the parts of school climate. And one example is for the student voice part of the comprehensive needs assessment, we only had students in grades 5 through 8 complete that. And then the parents, we asked our parents a few questions. We asked them like 20 questions, and this asked them like 80 questions. It asks a lot of information, and it gives you a lot of evidence.
Are they open-ended questions, or were you like pick from a list? Because my experience is if you're just picking from a list, you're not going to get much useful information compared to if there's at least some level of requirement that people fill in boxes with words.
So I believe that there are places for comments. It's been a long time since I've done this survey. I remember though, so they gave you like 80 sentences, 80 different things to look at, and you rated them on a scale of 1 to 5. Like, how effective is such and such in your school district? Have you seen evidence of such and such? So they want to know, what is your opinion based on their questions, which are very in-depth.
Like we're in the parent voice survey, they've got sample questions. And it looks like on a scale 1 to 5 type thing. It's, I feel welcome in my child's school. My child has a teacher who is a positive role model. It looks, at least at that one, that it's more of on a scale of 1 to 5 or 1 to 10 or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's a 1 to 5.
Is the 1184, is that every student? Or is that like just 5th through 8th?
For the Parent Voice Survey, $1 per student for all K through 8. For the Student Voice Survey, it's for all students for 3rd through 8th grade. And then for the Teacher Voice Survey, it would be for all teachers and paraprofessionals.
Have you checked into any other organizations?
No, I haven't. And as I said, there is one on there's one available on the OPI website, which is more a community response survey. And when we did the comprehensive needs assessment before, we used the OPI comprehensive needs assessment. We sent it out to everybody, but they're looking for more than one tool. So we have that tool, and we certainly can use the one that they have available on their website to the community. And then this would be a 3rd tool.
So really looking at the students, it's more of just basically a 3 through 8th would be your ones doing this survey, correct?
3rd through 8th grade would be that would be doing the student voice survey for 3rd through 8th. And then the parent voice survey and the teacher voice survey would be for every child.
For every child, okay.
Do we have a strategy for participation or capture?
As I said, I will offer incentives, and usually once that word gets home, the kids they're pretty gung-ho. They're like, if we do such and such, we'll get, extra recess, or we'll get donuts, or we'll get popcorn, or whatever it is. They're pretty gung-ho for that kind of stuff. Root beer floats in the middle school. I mean, that kind of stuff just really, it really makes a difference.
Dawn, what did you say that we are currently using for addressing this? I'm sorry, I didn't get it written down.
Oh, so we did the comprehensive needs assessment is
Thank
what
you.
we did. And that was through OPI.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So the CNA. So we did that in January of last year. We sent that out to our entire community, and we had our 5th through 8th grade students complete that also, and our teachers. But again, it wasn't as in depth. It was what OPI had published, and they're looking for more than one tool.
When's the deadline for utilizing the?
February 28th.
Okay.
So we would have those results immediately as soon as we close the window for that, and we can open the window at any time.
And you have a plan for using these results? Or are we
Yes,
just
we would
throwing
look at
them
the results and discuss, as a staff, we would discuss the results of the survey and say, what is our plan to fix this or fix that, or what is our biggest need, what do we see as a staff. We would look at those results and move forward.
I think if the community, the parents, I think it'd probably be easier to get students and teachers participation in this, but if we can get parents participation in it, I can see value in it, I think. I'm just kind of sensing a little hesitation, and maybe there's no other options.
That's why I'd like to see other options looked at, because I know there are some. I was just looking online. National School Climate Center. There was
Just from a cost comparison,
right.
I
So
know
I
there's
can look at something else and see, I will have to make a decision though, based on, if it's a low cost like this, I'll have to make a decision so we can move forward. But I just wanted to bring this to your attention that there are actually 4 types of surveys here through this institute, and I would be recommending the use of 3 of them.
So Mrs. Mack doesn't have to have board approval for anything less than $5,000. This is just more, this is a good
It's
thing to bring.
informational, I just want to let you know that it's out there and that it's a good tool.
This is also one that she's used at a school district in the past, so has experience with it in real life instead of just pulling one off the internet, which I think has.
So at my last
Little
school, I
bit.
was the district testing coordinator, so I have a lot of experience with a lot of testing things, and it was a pretty good tool. I was really impressed with it.
What 3 are you thinking of using?
So the
Those parents,
second one,
student,
the
teacher.
parent voice survey, the third one, the student voice survey, and the 4th one,
Okay.
which is the teacher voice survey.
We have a school PR team, don't we?
Me too.
That kind of be a
Yes.
cool project for them.
To create one
Build
of these.
build a survey, and maybe not the parent part, like we just did the parent voice on this, and the student teacher, they could create it, and
So the thing is it has to be like a tried and true evidence-based survey. So it can't just be something that we just throw together.
Government's involved.
that sounds like.
Yes, and that is the problem.
So what is tried and true mean?
I think just reputable, established, incorporated.
I think that was the key
Yeah,
word,
that'd be mine.
incorporated.
Which, there's value in,
Yeah, it says the first thing is measuring school climate through a valid and reliable tool. That means evidence-based.
it's just a tough purchase, I think, from, I'll speak for myself, but I'm assuming the majority of the board, it's,
Yeah.
however I get.
Like, why are we paying money for a survey?
Difficult, however,
I get it.
yeah.
Like you said, less than $5,000.
Yeah, and
So
I
it-
didn't mean to throw that out as like she can do whatever she wants moment.
No.
I just more wanted to kind of make you guys aware that there's a timing. She's talking about there being a timing issue, right? And so if you guys don't want to approve this one tonight, she will do research on other ones per your guys' request. However, she's gonna pull the trigger on one of them within the next week or
And
so.
I think,
'cause-
my comments are largely around, we have to do this at least twice, in my opinion, to get any benefit. So we know we're committing to this year and at least a future year. And then, I think Bob had a number of questions and we've talked about it. I think it's important that we get some value from this, which to Rick's point, absolutely requires parent involvement, and I think that's my concern, is how do you get parents to actually do this? And I appreciate your comments, Don, and you know, motivate the kids and make the kids be a pain in the rear for their folks when they get home.
That works. That's
So, yeah, I think that's my big thing, is I want to make sure we get some sort of value out of this.
The
So
execution
the
strategy.
parent voice survey part of it is a total of $176 for
Yeah.
the parent voice survey.
Yeah.
So the rest of it is done with students, and it is done with the teachers and parents.
Yeah, which that to me, I don't know, maybe I can't wrap my head around it. That's what's interesting. I would think the parents' vote is what I really care about. I mean,
Yeah.
I've got a 13 and a 10-year-old at home, and sometimes I care what they think, and sometimes I don't. Depending on the topic and their attitude.
situation.
So,
The parent
Right,
voice survey
so
for
that
a dollar
being
sounds like
said,
a no-brainer.
and I'm gonna speak up on behalf of the students here. The questions that they would receive in their survey would measure a lot of things about their environment, as far as their social environment at school, whether they feel that if they have an issue, is it addressed adequately? And those are things that we, as teachers and as paraprofessionals, we need that information so that we can respond thoroughly and efficiently. You know, we need that information. The other thing is I would ask curricular questions like, are there certain things that they really feel that are not being met, certain needs that are not being met through our curriculum? And I know that we have gaps in our curriculum because we're a small school, and I know that we lose some students to bigger schools because of those situations, but we also have things that other schools don't have. So for example, we have the Algebra 1 that we're offering this year, we have a great robotics program, and those are things that other school districts have asked if we would mind sharing our resources, and we're like, you know what? We might not get those resources back. So our staff has not been in favor of sharing resources for those particular things.
Well, go on.
Go ahead.
Well, just going along with what you just said there with students, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but also, I mean, you're gonna have kids saying, well, this teacher favors this kid, or this para favors this kid and doesn't do this
And
kid.
so don't you want to know that information?
Well, yeah, no, what I was going with it is, yeah, I mean, I want to know that, and my kids, you know, they'll tell me stuff that goes on, but I also weigh with a grain of salt too, because like Jason said, I mean, they're kids, but also you should know what's going on. I'm not saying you're going to know everything that's going on, but if you've got a group of teachers that are showing favoritism to kids on the playground, well, not on the playground because teachers don't go out, but just as an example, you know, if that's going on and it's becoming a big issue, then yeah, it should be addressed. But
Well, you would know about that. That's a little
Right.
bit would.
right,
You know
yeah,
about that ahead of time. That's,
Yeah,
that would be
exactly.
So noticeable. I was just trying to give an example.
yeah, no, absolutely, and I get that totally. So yeah, I don't know.
yeah, back to it's $1,200
Yeah,
times 2. We'll do it at least twice.
at least twice to get. Yeah.
I think
Yeah, so we were talking about this year, and then the next time would be when we would have our 3-year accreditation review.
I can see the value in it, like Jason said, as long as we put, and I know you will, put a lot of effort into executing and making sure we capture that information. But I think it is actually can give us a really empowering information and data and trends. To your point, Josh.
Right. But if we just do it and we don't get a lot of, if we, you know, if you get a survey, and because this happens to us at work, we do what's called a Blessing White survey every year, but nothing changes.
Right.
You know, if we do the survey and nothing changes, then we just threw our money out for an accreditation. I do want to give you one organization and website, Dawn. It's pbis.org. And they're under, I did a search for
Yeah.
PBIS.
Yes, so that's through MTSS. So we already are working with, that's a multi-tiered systems of support. So that's a part of our system already, PBIS, Positive Case Intervention Systems.
Okay, so
I can look and see
this
what
is, yeah, because they do have assessments. School Climate Survey Suite. They have a whole suite.
Okay, I'll take a look at it.
It doesn't say a cost. I was under the free stuff, so I don't know.
Yeah, and that also would go hand in hand with our MPSS because we're in our second year of our grant. We're almost finished with it and we're doing amazingly well. Yeah, several things are coming together with that. So I will
Okay.
check that out.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Of course, you're welcome.
Okay. Take a motion. Whether it be table or no action.
I move that we allow Dawn to go forward with the understanding that she's going to check out some other ones before she just buys this one.
Sounds perfect.
I second that motion.
Got that?
Try and save us as much money as you can, Dawn.
Of course.
All right.
So for money wise, do we need to amend the motion to say up
No.
to that number? No?
Because she can spend it anyway.
That's true. Okay.
All right. No further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion will pass. And that concludes our action agenda.
Who seconded that?
I did.
Thank you. Real quick, I'm sorry I forgot to bring this up earlier when we tabled the superintendent evaluation, but we need to go ahead and schedule that day. So Mrs. Matt and I talked earlier today and found up 3 days that worked for us. So could you guys pull open your calendars and see if one of these dates will work for y'all? Because it'd be nice if everybody can be there. So January 2nd is the first opportunity after 6:30 p.m. Do you want all three options right away, or do you want to just go with option A?
What are your other dates?
January 6th or January 8th? The January 8th one will need to be earlier, like around 5. January 6th is wide open.
I could do the 2nd or the 6th. I just can't do earlier.
It don't matter to me. I think.
I'm good with all three.
Yeah.
6th?
I mean, 6 o'clock is, if we go before 6, there's a really good chance I won't make it.
So do we want to do the
The
6th
6th
at
work?
6?
The 6th is fine.
Yeah, 6 is fine for me.
6th at 6.
6th at 6.
Is this a special board meeting then? And it's open?
It is, it will be, yes. we will be
It'll be open until we go though.
Well, and I know that we're gonna also put the electrical bid for the portable on that agenda since we have it now, so
Great.
we'll be open for at least a little while
Okay.
on that. But it will go into executive session.
Perfect.
I'm sorry, Lacey, I couldn't hear you. Could you repeat that, please?
Sorry, I said the meeting will be open at least for a little while because we're gonna look at that Flathead Electric bid for the portable and then we'll go into executive session.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I really think if we're all ready for it, yeah,
All right. Thank you, Lacey.
that should be
There's no correspondence? No special discussion? This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Don.